The story begins in a place called the Eastern Wilderness of Than Van Chao. There is currently a battle going on here between the Than Van Kim sect and the Ma Van Kim sect. The disciples of the Than Van Kim sect are in a weak position. If you are defeated by the Ma An Huyet formation, then the Than Van Kim sect will be the same. The era has changed, and from now on, the Eastern Desolate Continent will be the world of our Ma Van sect. A disciple was beaten until he vomited blood supporting his injured body and screaming. Ma Van Tong, don't even think about being arrogant. I've already informed Hoa Su Huin. Once he arrives, don't even think about escaping. On the Ma Van Kim sect's side, 5 people were working together to activate the formation. Behind them was a giant emitting black lightning created from the formation. The hooded man in the middle asked, "Are there any people with the surname Hoa among the 10 great disciples of the Than Van Kim sect? I don't remember." Hearing that, he frowned and laughed mockingly. He wasn't even one of the 10 great disciples, yet he still wanted to fight with the 5 geniuses of Ma Van. He said as he controlled the formation to make the giant raise his fist, "Let your senior brother come and pick up your bodies." As soon as he finished speaking, the fist swung down. At the same time, a mysterious young man also flew over. He was able to block the attack with one hand. The man in the slack hat was surprised, his eyebrows furrowed so tightly that he could crush a fly. What? Seeing the other person's appearance, the disciples happily hugged each other and cried, "Ha, we're saved, senior brother Hoa." The person called Hoa brother's full name is Hoa Than Van. His eyes indifferently looked down. Luckily, he arrived in time. The people from the Demon Cloud Sword sect above laughed loudly and said, "Ha ha, so excited." The giant raised his hand and created a ball of thunder to die. The ball swung down, and before it could touch Hoa Than Van, he was slashed with a sword. The sword just slashed down and injured all 5 people of Ma Van sect. The battle swept through the dark clouds. The sun appeared again. Than Van was still standing there without any damage. The people of Ma Van Tong were all lying on the ground, trembling and unconscious. What happened? It was over. Then from the body of a Ma Van Tong member fell a black spirit pearl that gradually emitted a red light. Hoa Than Van gave the disciples a bottle of medicine to treat their injuries. "Are you okay?" "Thank you, brother Hoa, for helping to save him." Hoa Than Van spoke up to reproach junior brother Nguyet Nhien. "Didn't I say not to do it, this time if I hadn't come quickly?" Nguyet Nhien received the medicine and sadly said senior brother Hoa's lesson must be that those demon cultivators were truly too cruel. Blood sacrifices of hundreds of thousands of cultivators of Thanhu City just to refine the blood soul pearl, ignoring it, would be against the sect's ethics. I was momentarily agitated. Hoa Than Van sighed and patted his shoulder. Naturally, he sincerely advised the young people not to be fooled by the big cake that the sect drew. Measure your strength and make a peaceful life. This is the path of cultivation in my life. Hoa senior brother, you are saying things that others don't understand. Not far away, a black-purple demonic aura appeared surrounded by small red lightning bugs. From the pearl appeared an old man with silver hair holding a red talisman in his hand. This person is called Ta Van Old Ancestor. He dares to harm the disciples of our Ma Van sect. As he spoke, he released a palm strike called the Magical Shadow Hand. You guys are tired of living. Junior brother Ngui Nian was shocked. His face was covered in sweat as he spoke. This is the elder of Ma Van Kong, Ta Van Old Ancestor, a cultivator of the 7th level of Pu Realm. Hoa Than Van took the sword out of its sheath. The sword just opened and flashed with blue light surrounded by strong spiritual energy streams. They flew up to block a palm strike from Ta Van Old Ancestor. Ta Van's eyes widened in surprise. He was actually able to block a palm strike from his own 7-level realm. The old face smiled. "You're so good, killing you is really a pity." He offered some words of enticement. Our Ma Van sect has always exalted the strong. "Why don't you join me? I will give you the title of the top disciple. You can have as many beautiful women as you want." Hoa Than Van said expressionlessly, "Is the treatment that good? But I heard that your disciples of the Demon Cloud sect wake up early and sleep late. Even when the sun shines on the ground, they are still being hunted down by the righteous path. Cultivation also uses the method of grazing and hoping for good luck." Hearing this, the evil cloud ancestor was startled and broke out in a sweat as he explained, "We demon cultivators don't have as many rules and regulations as the righteous sect. The environment is relatively comfortable, and the more you improve, the more you eat." Hoa Than Van laughed mockingly. "Haha, it's true that the more you work, the more you eat. The work at Than Van Kim Tong is stable, and it's an old sect, so I'm living peacefully here." The more he spoke, the more angry he became. Hoa Than Van drew his sword. "Now you want to trick me into going to the competition." Saying that, he flew up and used the first move of the Than Van sword technique. Before Ta Van Old Ancestor could prepare, he was attacked. He hugged his chest and panicked. What? Hoa Than Van Huyen's sword struck down again. The final blow created a huge explosion. Hua Than Van returned the sword to its sheath in a cool pose and praised herself nice. Nguyen Hien happily said, "I told you that Brother Hoa is coming right." Nguyen Hien in front had eyes sparkling with admiration. Only the two disciples behind were trembling in shock. Am I not dreaming? Is our sect's introductory sword technique actually that powerful? Is Senior Brother Hoa really that terrifying? The body of the evil Van old ancestor gradually disappeared. He wondered why. Hua Than Van looked down and said disdainfully, I've been working in the job center for so many years, and I've already seen through your tricks. Dare to draw a cake in front of me, really bring shame on yourself. Old ancestor. Tar Van used his remaining breath to ask again, didn't I ask you why you are so strong? The body of the evil Van old ancestor disappeared, leaving only a purple pearl. Hua Than Van threw it back to Han Dun. Suddenly, from where the evil Van Lao To's body disappeared, a purple object quickly flew away. Hua Than Van looked and discovered that it was the soul of the evil Van Lao, to the true spirit had left his body. Hua Than Van started Lin to prepare to chase, running away somewhere. Suddenly he stopped. The whole person shook with the sound of the bell. He took a watch out of his shirt, looked thoughtful. No longer continued chasing. Hua Than Van changed direction and returned, even though the primary rescue mission was completed. The confused disciples asked what Senior Brother Hoa was doing. It was obvious that he had added another sword strike. Why didn't he continue to pursue? Junior Brother Nguyen Hien sighed and explained with a smile, "Ha, you guys don't know. Brother Hoa practices from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Nguyen Hien pointed to the setting sun and said seriously, it was already after the hour of Tao. Fellow disciples listened to this. Ngu was stunned and didn't know what to say. According to Senior Brother Hoa, it was time to get off work now. In another place, Hua Than Van was leisurely walking back and forth, sighing. The most annoying thing is that it's almost the end of working hours, and you still give me tasks, almost making me have to work overtime. The next day at Dong Huang Than Van Chao Than Van Kim Tong, all the disciples in the sect were diligently practicing. One person flies on a sword. Some people practice swordsmanship. The disciples were practicing diligently under the hot sun. A disciple looked behind him and spoke in dissatisfaction. Look at that guy walking lazily. Another disciple also spoke up in dissatisfaction, damn it. Who let him be the true disciple? From afar, Hua Than Van was wearing a blindfold and lying in the shade taking a nap. Then Hua Than Van stretched, chest out, heart relaxed. He pulled the blindfold off and thought that it was already past midnight when he returned to the sect yesterday, causing him to not get enough sleep. Thinking about what happened yesterday, he sighed tiredly. If he had known he wouldn't have become this damn true disciple, just give me these troublesome tasks. Hua Than Van sadly remembered the days before she crossed over. Before she knew it, 5 years had passed. Because of the continuous 996 overtime work schedule with high intensity, Hua Than Van collapsed on her desk from exhaustion. And yet the boss scolded me for daring to be lazy in front of me. Get up and do your work. If you can't finish your work, don't leave work. Oh no, boss. It seems like he's not okay. Call 120 quickly. Let's give it to him first. I died suddenly and accidentally came to this fantasy world. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself in a new world, a new body, a new identity. I have crossed over. Here my identity is a small true disciple of Than Van Kim Tong. The image changes to the scene where the elders continuously criticize Hua Than Van's behavior. Hua Than Van, as a true disciple, you have to work even harder. What nonsense are you talking about saying that at your age, how can you sleep so well? You should be cultivating and forgetting to eat and sleep. You are truly lazy. I have never met anyone this lazy before. In order not to make the same mistake, we have made an absolute vow not to work overtime in this world. Absolutely no overtime, but Hua Than Van looked at the image of the disciples in the sect, practicing crazily and helplessly exhausted, and just didn't expect that there would be such fighting here. Suddenly there was a voice calling Senior Brother. Hua Than Van glanced over. Brother Hua, the sect master, is looking for you about yesterday's mission and wants to ask you for details. You guys didn't reveal my story, did you? Nguyen Hien heard that and clenched his fists excitedly. Surely without me, he would have negotiated with them already. Everyone didn't mention a word about Hoa Senior Brother's strength. Hua Than Van patted his junior brother's shoulder and whispered, "Well done, I'll go first. Next time I have time, I'll teach you 2 moves." Nguyen Hien turned back happily to thank many thanks Hoa Senior Brother. He looked at the distant figure of Hua Than Van and said goodbye to his senior brother Hoa. Hua Than Van was on his way to the main hall of the sect master, thinking as he walked. In the Shangyuan realm, the realms are divided into 6 levels, from low to high, respectively Qi Refining Realm, Flower Spirit Realm, and Soul Gathering Realm, 6 Palace Realm. But the Blue Cloud Flower has sealed its own strength. Next is the Purple Palace and Dang Tien Realms. Each level of realm is divided into 9 levels, and this one is a heavyweight swordsman. The sect master of the Thun Van Kim sect, a peerless expert, is in the sixth realm. Others gave him the nickname Thun Van Kim Thun. Hoa Thun Van raised his hand and happily said, "Good morning, sect master." The sect master looked down with a serious face. "Xiao Hua, be serious. This is the main hall." Hoa Thun Van smiled lightly and took out a box. "I grow Van Tam tea. A few days ago, a batch of leaves ripened." Hearing this, the sect master paused. His expression immediately changed. "Excited to the point of drooling, quickly come to my side. Quickly give me the taste of the last time I drank Van Tam tea. It's still the same as last time." Looking at the expression of the sect master Hoa Thun Van, he secretly smiled. Who would have thought that the Thun Van sword god would be a tea addict? But I borrowed modern knowledge to grow succulents and high-quality green plants, to make tea according to my interests and connect with leaders. He smiled smugly in his heart, but it was a compulsory subject for employees. The sect master pretended to cough to hide his embarrassment and asked, "Cough, cough. What did you harvest last night? I heard the dead come back and say you saved them." Hoa Thun Van avoided his gaze and took out a pearl, answering that it was just a coincidence. "I found this on a disciple of Ma Van Tong." The sect master was stunned as he looked at the pearl, the blood pearl. The atmosphere became heavy. The sect master took the pearl and asked Hoa Thun Van Xiao, "Hoa, do you know what this means? Look at that pearl that emits small red lightning bolts." The sect master said with a serious face, "Ma Van Tong and the others actually want to." Before he could finish his sentence, Hoa Thun Van crossed his arms and his face was covered in sweat, signaling his strong objection. Not knowing, not wanting to listen, not caring. In order to avoid hearing the story, he quickly said goodbye and quickly ran away. "If the sect master has nothing else to do, then I will go back first. I'm sorry, sect master. I just want to leisurely pass my life. The troublesome matters should be left to others." The sect master called out, causing Hoa Thun Van to stop. He angrily pointed at Hua Qing Yun with a wrinkled face and blamed him. "Xiao Hua, it's not me, the sect master, who's talking about you. Although you have some talent in growing spirit tea, but as a true disciple, you cannot be so lazy. I asked you last week, it was clearly your turn to explain sword techniques to your disciples. Why didn't you go?" Hoa Thun Van did not turn back to answer. When it was my turn, it was already the hour of the rooster. Morning hour of the snake, afternoon hour of the rooster. This is my secret. Please understand, sect master. The sect master yelled again, angry that you had escaped the swordsmanship meeting, so the 4 sect masters came to find me. Said he wanted to abolish your position as a true disciple. Hearing this, Hoa Thun Van stopped and asked if they really said that. The sect master thought that Hua Qing Yun was feeling sad and a little regretful. "Did I say too much, I Xiao Hua?" Unexpectedly, he turned around with a bright smile. "That's great. I'll become your inner disciple and see if anyone dares to say anything about me being lazy in the future. When will the sect master revoke my status as a true disciple?" Hearing this, the sect master's blood pressure rose, and he clenched his fists in anger and shouted, "You!" Unable to hold back any longer, the sect master exploded, pointing at Hua Qing Yun. Dreaming of going to Qing Yun sword sect since its founding, until now there has never been a precedent among my true disciples and the elders. Hoa Thun Van's eyes were filled with sadness. Damn it, I knew there was no such thing as a good thing. Outside, a female voice attracted the attention of the 2 people. They bowed to the sect master and senior brother Hoa. "Oh, Kiem Tam, you're here." Kim Tam walked to Hoa Thun Van, her eyebrows furrowed as she asked the tens of thousands of inner sect disciples who worked day and night just to become true disciples. "Brother Hoa, why do you want to give up this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity? The person who just arrived is the top true disciple of Thun Van Kim Tong Hutch Kiem Tam." Hoa Thun Van looked at her in amazement. Kiem Tam, the true disciple of Thun Van Kiem Tong, was a beautiful young woman. At a young age, she already had the cultivation of Tufu realm. Her strength and reputation were both top-notch. Hoa Thun Van and Kiem Tam are truly complete opposites, a person considered the future of Thun Van Kiem Tong. One is the 55th ranked true disciple of the Thun Van Kim sect. Hoa Thun Van closed her eyes and said, "Junior sister Nach, you don't know that I've been stuck in Lin Lung realm for a long time, so want to start from the inner gate. Strengthen the foundation and then break the knot. Taking advantage of the opportunity from the lowest place is called reviewing the old and knowing the new." Speaking up to here, Hoa Thun Van's eyes were full of determination and looked extremely serious. Hearing that, she was surprised. She did not expect that her senior brother would have such a progressive mind and would think deeply about the path of cultivation, completely different from the rumors. Seeing that Kiem Tam's mind was being manipulated, the sect master was speechless and didn't know what else to say. It was because his sword heart was shallow side, "Junior sister, you're too polite." The sect master interrupted the 2 of them. "Xiao Hua, the reason why Kiem Tam came here is because the sect masters made a request of you." Hua, Thun Van, and Kiem Tam wondered, what is the request? The sect master laughed and said, they want you to carry out the mission with Kiem Tam to learn the diligent virtues of the top disciple. Hua Thun Van heard, and his whole body stiffened. He took a breath and asked, Sect Master, are you joking? Because of too much sweat, his whole body is like a shriveled corpse. When thinking about the image of the enthusiastic and energetic junior sister, Nak Kiem Tam, who had stirred up the fighting scene in the sect, he was called the King of Fighting Kings. This person cannot cooperate with me. How can he go on missions together? The more Hua Thun Van thought about it, the more scared he became. The sect master frowned and spoke in reproach. Xiaohua Jianxin is the top true disciple of our sect. So many people lined up waiting to be taught by him, and now you and he are doing such a good opportunity to do a mission together. What are you dissatisfied about? Hua Thun Van frowned and racked his brain to politely refuse. My sect master is just worried that I'm too immature and will let my junior sister run wild. Hua Thun Van also secretly hoped that Kiem Tam also thought the same as him. Junior sister, you also don't want me to be a burden, right? But life is not like a dream. Nak Kiem Tam spoke up to refute senior brother thinks too much. Her eyes were sparkling, her whole body was full of enthusiasm. We are all fellow students, so we should support each other and progress together. She happily said, furthermore, Brother Hua, you can also take advantage of this mission to prove yourself and dispel the rumors about you outside. On the outside, Hua Thun Van smiled gently and said nothing, but on the inside he was extremely panicked and wanted to find a solution. At best, wanted to destroy me, and I also wanted to be caught up in the fight. Finally, Hua Thun Van clasped her hands and seriously said to the sect master, Sect master, I'm not too worried about my mission, I'm just worried about the tea leaves, no one will take care of them. Speaking softly but actually threatening the sect master, making his face darken. Sect master, you want me to do the mission, and you don't hesitate to invite junior sister Yue, but I am a principled person who can be idle in the sect. Why do I have to go out to work with this little girl? The sect master held up 3 fingers. Makes Hua Thun Van confused. The sect master had no choice but to look serious and said to Thun Van, as long as you can complete the mission, the sect master will give you 3 days off. In Hua Thun Van's mind, he repeated the sect master's words in surprise, 3 days off. Hua Thun Van's whole body was filled with energy immediately. It shone like the sun of truth, shining through her heart. He held the sect master's hand tightly. The level of enthusiasm must be said to be eye-catching. He was very sincere and serious. He said to the sect master, this matter cannot be delayed. Quickly tell me the content and location of the mission. Seeing Thun Van's attitude change 180 degrees, Tong could only feel disdain and anger in his heart, but could not say it out loud. Hua Thun Van, even if I have to go through fire and smoke, I will definitely not give up. At noon, Nak Kiem Tam was concentrating on practicing swordsmanship. Hua Thun Van yawned and walked away. Yo, junior sister Nak, you're so patient. Kiem Tam stopped, his whole body covered in sweat, and asked senior brother Hua, you're a moment late. Thun Van folded her arms and said indifferently, if you don't sleep at noon, you won't have the spirit to do so, junior sister. Sword Heart goes forward. Speaking of reason, cultivating is important and taking advantage of everything. I came here on time at noon. I have already swung 3,000 swords, but you, a spiritual realm cultivator, are acting like a mortal who needs to sleep. Finally looked straight at Hua Thun Van and concluded with a sentence too lazy. Hua Thun Van felt tickled by what was said. Avoiding Kiem Tam's gaze, she said, ah yes, junior sister is right. After I return, I will definitely cultivate even harder. Why is junior sister still so young, and yet she is already babbling like an elder? Then Nak Kiem Tam sighed. Time is running out, let's go. Both of them set off on a mission. They crossed the mountain ranges at a very fast speed. Brother Hoa, what do you think about this mission? The sect master sent us to investigate the missing villagers in Thien Van Mountain, and Thien Van Mountain is close to Thun Hu Thun, which was sacrificed by blood. Hua Thun Van replied as he flew, I suspect that the reason those villagers disappeared for no reason is related to Ma Tong. That's right, I also think so. Suddenly Kiem Tam spoke up to reassure him, senior brother, don't worry, even though you've just reached the Lin Lung realm, I will protect you. Hua Thun Van happily replied, thank you, junior sister. I didn't expect junior sister Hak to be so trustworthy. Hua Thun Van secretly felt pleased in her heart that not only was she able to flatter him, but after finishing the job, she also got 3 days off. This time she really got a good deal. He was so happy that even the sun turned into a smiling face. Thank you, sect master. In the afternoon, Hua Thun Van and Kiem Tam landed on the cliff to observe. They had arrived. This place was Thien Van Mountain. Not paying attention to Kiem Tam Thun Van's words, he only cared about finding things. Brother Hoa, let's look for the villagers here to find clues. Brother Hoa, what do you think? Kiem Tam looked at Thun Van in confusion. He was looking at the clock that started counting down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The countdown ended and he happily shouted that the hour of the rooster had come, saying that he ran down the mountain leaving Kim Tam behind, not understanding what was happening. I have to go rest, then I'll leave the matter of asking the villagers to you to take care of. See you tomorrow. Into the village. Hoa Than Van entered Am Hong Lao. Inside the shop there was no one but the owner. The treasurer rented me a room. The boss looked up with a gloomy face and replied with a tale of silver. The two men handed over money in one hand and the key in the other. The second floor room was on the left at the end of the hallway. When the boss held the silver Than Van flower, he discovered that his hand now had black patterns spreading. Oh, it seems like he found something, but then sighed. Never mind now, it's time to rest. Than Van went upstairs, then went to bed to rest, wondering how junior sister Nak's investigation went. At midnight, Hoa Than Van was awakened by the noise. All the rooms were taken, and there were no more vacant rooms. The treasurer clearly said that his guests were empty, so why wouldn't he let me stay? I wouldn't have paid. Than Van sat up with a start. I fell asleep again. He was half awake and half asleep when he heard the noise outside. This sound sounded so familiar. Outside, Kim Tam is arguing with the treasurer. Are you complaining that I don't have enough money? I've already said it's all gone. You should still go. Suddenly there was a voice calling her back, junior musician sister. The person called Hoa Than Van was leaning against the pillar. If the treasurer said there were no more rooms, then don't make things difficult for him anymore. Brother Hoa, why are you here? Hoa Than. Van leaned against the wall and looked at the treasurer and said, Treasurer, I'll let my junior sister stay in the same room with me. Will it be okay? The treasurer bowed his head and avoided management, as you like. Only Nak Kim Tam still doesn't understand the situation staying in the same room with you. Seeing Than Van go upstairs to Kim Tong, he regained his composure. His eyes broadened in surprise. Senior brother Hoa, come to me, unless you want to sleep on the street. Kim Tam hesitated, embarrassed and red in the face. Kim Tam followed up. Looking at Than Van's face, she breathed a sigh of relief. Right, we don't do anything dirty, so why are we ashamed? She imagined herself beating Hua Qing Yun to a pulp. Moreover, Hoa brother was only in the Lin Lung realm, so she could completely protect herself. Than Van sat at the table while eating and asked her junior sister, have you had dinner yet? She was still embarrassed and lowered her head to answer, I haven't. Look at the plate of cake on the table. Than Van asked if she wanted to eat something. Hearing about eating Kim Tam once again, explained our senior brother is a practitioner, so we must be pure-minded, abstain from desire, and escape from the temptation of food. Only with a pure mind can. While talking suddenly, a cake was stuffed into his mouth. Kim Tam blushed and covered her mouth, but she still chewed. The sweet taste melts in the mouth, making Kim Tam Nu's soul soar. This cake is sweet, but not sweet. It melts in the mouth and has a light fragrance like a cool stream of water flowing into the dantian. I'm about to drown in this sweet cake. After finishing the cake in her mouth, she regained her spirit. She was embarrassed and asked Than Van's senior brother Hoa, why did you use cake to sneak attack me? Than Van just gently looked at her and asked, is it delicious? She avoids his eyes and stagnant eye. It tastes very delicious. Even though she had already eaten Kim, Tam still stubbornly argued, but food like this was not beneficial for cultivation, so it was better to eat less. This is not right. Has junior sister ever thought about whether it is possible to practice and travel 1,000 miles a day by avoiding vegetables, meat, and the mundane world? Kim Tam wondered and asked again, is it not true? Hoa Than Van denied it. No. You and I are both walking in this world. How can you and I avoid everything in this world? Running away will only make your body and mind tired and tied up, making it difficult for you to continue your cultivation. Ki em tam sang, nang hisang thoi em echi nang, leh nash nang en u kang, si tam trong esis chi kang, si cdcv nang ech nang phes cham em trong, the gian bd, si v nang liko, sao vi I thalam, sao tu lui nc. Hoa Than Van explained, while pointing at the cake on the table. I believe that true cultivators dare to face the temptations of reality head-on. Just like this cake, if you are afraid that it is delicious, it will make you mentally disturbed. Then you should try to get used to it. Wait until you can make it and treat this cake as an ordinary object without being disturbed. Then you will truly have entered the realm of cultivation. Having said that, Hoa Than Van recited a poem, his entire body emitting a halo that made Kim Tam blink his eyes dry. Clearing the mind, able to see the truth, using the truth to meet the truth. All appearances will appear unstained in appearance, freely manifest freely as usual. That is not natural. Hoa Than Van opened her eyes and looked. Seeing Kim Tam's bewildered face made him panic. Oh no, I was so excited that I talked too much. Surely this kid's brain won't die. Suddenly the music of Kim Tam woke up and said, Senior brother Hoa, I have realized it. Hoa Than Tam was a bit surprised by her actions. Only by facing and giving up desires can one return to the original state of enlightenment. She said, then turned around and ate the cake like crazy, as if she was starved. Thang Van stood to the side and cried in her heart, "You're crazy, stop eating my breakfast." Huathan Van was so angry that he could only go to bed and sleep. "Sorry, junior sister, today you're temporarily lying on the ground. Go find a place to eat and be happy. Say to senior brother, I'm fine, I won't sleep, just sit quietly and meditate." Late night. Kiem Tam is meditating. Thon Van was lying on the bed sleeping soundly. A mysterious man stood at their door. "Little girl, I wanted to forgive you, but don't blame me." He burned a stick of incense in front of the room and left. That scent. Through the door. Fly to Kiem Tam. Where is the strange smell? Smelling a strange smell, she opened her eyes with a start. Everywhere is a purple haze, dangerously poisonous. By the time she reacted to the situation, the poison had already entered her body. She lay down. Looking towards Huathan Van's bed, Brother Hoa quickly ran. But strangely, he was resting his chin on the bed, completely awake, watching her slowly pass out. Brother Hoa, inside a forest. A trembling man walked forward. I knelt down before the mysterious disciple of Thun Van Kim Tong, who had been knocked unconscious by me using the Lin Huang fragment. The person kneeling below turned out to be the treasurer. He trembled as he reported the situation. Among them, one person was the true disciple of the Than Van Kim sect Nak Kiem Tam. The other person was unknown, and was only known as Hoa Brother. The mysterious man looked down with interest. "Oh, I didn't expect you to be able to make Nak Kiem Tam faint. As for Brother Hoa, I've never heard of him, he's probably just a follower." Treasurer Ran continued. Luckily, he had the Lord's hidden breath talisman, so they didn't discover him. The mysterious man was a white-haired man wearing a hood. He had 3 scars on his left cheek. He smiled sinisterly and looked at the treasurer. "Haha, you've made a great achievement this time." The treasurer saw this and was both happy and scared. He opened his mouth and begged the Lord for his wife and son. The white-haired guy flew closer to the treasurer. "Don't worry, they're still alive and well. Now I'll take you to meet them." The treasurer was happy to thank him, but he did not expect danger to be approaching. "Thank you, sir." As soon as he finished speaking, he was struck in the heart by a palm strike, causing blood to splatter everywhere. The white-haired pervert licked the blood off his hand, then laughed loudly, raised both hands to the sky. "Ha ha! The final sacrifice, finally, it's almost done." He called out number 3 and number 4, a man and a woman with purple hair appeared. He turned around and ordered 2 people to go to the guest and capture 2 disciples of Than Van Kiem Tam to come here. At the moment, Kiem Tam is gradually waking up. Huathan Van said, "You're awake." "Brother Hoa." Kiem Tam suddenly jumped up in panic and shouted, "No, that's not right. Let's go quickly. This place is very dangerous." Huathan Van calmly looked at Kiem Tam's reaction. Kiem Tam was still breathing heavily, then found out I was fine and was confused. Carrying a question, he asked, "Why are you okay? With Brother Hoa's strength, you should have fainted faster than me." Huathan Van stood up and replied that when I slept, I used the fetus to meditate, unlike you guys who circulated spiritual energy, so I didn't inhale the spirit fragrance. I waited and waited, and the person in the dark didn't move, so I chased away all the scent in the room and helped you detoxify. Huathan Van looked at the incense on the table and sighed. But it is the Lin Huang section cultivators below the 5th level of the Tu Fu realm find it difficult to resist the poison of this incense. Huathan Van spoke up to remind her junior sister, "Your life experience is still very new. You cannot be careless. If you go out on a mission alone this time, the consequences will be unimaginable." Kiem Tam realized and bowed to thank his senior brother for saving him. She will definitely pay more attention in the future. Huathan Tam poured a cup of warm tea and handed it over to her junior sister. "Why do you have to be so polite? Come have some tea to warm yourself up." "Thank you, senior brother." Receiving the cup of tea, Kiem Tam's heart was filled with thoughts. In the rumor, Brother Hoa is just a true disciple. Laziness has become a habit. But I didn't expect that just a few sentences from him would make me realize the magic of cultivation, always maintaining vigilance to save my life. Kiem Tam blushed and peeked at Huathan Van, who was drinking tea. Carefully evaluating thoughtful personality and appearance were not bad. Unfortunately, it was the cultivation. Kiem Tam woke up from her thoughts. "Wait, what am I thinking?" Huathan Van suddenly turned around and asked, making her stiffen, "Junior sister, how is your recovery?" Kiem Tam quickly waved her hand and replied, coughed. "Thank you, senior brother, for your concern. Kiem Tam is no longer a problem. Could it be that he has feelings for me? Oh, that's good." In the middle of the air, suddenly a purple light appeared. A woman was flying towards him at high speed. Kiem Tam discovered the spiritual power movement. She held the sword to shield Huathan Van. It had murderous intent. She turned back and said, "Brother Hoa, be careful." But what made her so surprised that she couldn't put it into words was that Huathan Van calmly went back to bed and continued sleeping. "If you've recovered, then I'll have to trouble you, junior sister. Anyway, now is not my working time." Kiem Tam had no choice but to fly out and fight alone, leaving those two people both at the Purple Palace realm. Senior brother Hoa was only at the Spirit Lung realm, but coming here would only cause more trouble. Kiem Tam flew out. Holding the sword in my hand, I thought you were just suppressing your shame and delusions and turning them into anger to attack. You guys came at the right time. Kiem Tam used all her strength to throw a punch, the other two flying to the ground that make an explosion. Kiem Tam from above looking down below. The other two are from the fourth sect in the Eastern Wilderness Purple Spirit sect. Kiem Tam looked at them and asked the two true disciples of Tulin's sect why they were here. Their eyes. Kiem Tam looked into their eyes. All of them were soulless, without any focus. It was the evil blood koi spell that sealed the soul and turned it into a puppet. The other two were controlled and started using spiritual power to attack the Sword Heart. This was the magic of the demon sect. The disappearance in Vankan village was indeed caused by them playing tricks behind their backs. Kiem Tam dodged the attacks while thinking. These two people's strength is also at the level of the third and fourth layers of the palace realm. The attack of those two people passed. Kiem Tam stood in the air and said at the right moment, "I'm also a bit unhappy right now," she said while smiling dangerously. The Azure Cloud Sword decides to cut off the clouds and cut them off. Than Van Sword decision Tuok Van severed. The attack is coming soon. Two disciples of Tulin also quickly jumped up to escape. But who would have thought that Kiem Tam would point his finger forward and knock down saying the word disperse? The spiritual power from the move Tuok Van cut off the fluctuations and spread out. They become darts that fly towards the opponent and attack. The other two disciples were beaten to a pulp and fell to the ground. On this side, Hoathan Van used his divine sense to observe everything that had just happened. Oh, but it can actually separate the sword light that has been slashed. Hoathan Van put his hand on his head and thought, but if it was like that, his strength would also decrease. Using divine sense to observe the battle was also convenient. There was no need to blur his eyes. Those two disciples of the Tulin sect would not fall easily. The female disciple was so angry when she saw her younger brother injured that she said, "You dare to do that?" Her eyes stared lifelessly at her younger brother, her whole body radiating a murderous aura. The purple aura appeared more and more surrounding her. The Sword Heart looked at her from above. Slowly standing up, she was also surprised that her consciousness had not yet completely returned to normal. She still had some personal consciousness. "I want you dead." While saying that, she held his baton and ran quickly towards Kiem Tam, her eyes filled with murderous intent. She stomped one foot on the ground as a pillar, causing the nearby rocks and soil to crack. She jumped high, causing the surrounding rocks to shatter and fly away. Jumping high above Kiem Tam's head, Kiem Tam swung his stick down with all his might. Kiem Tam was a bit surprised by her speed. Luckily, she reacted in time and quickly used his sword to block the attack. But there was a bit of difficulty that made her frown uncomfortably. She could actually use such a heavy weapon. The two people just held each other like that and then counterattacked to push the opponent away. Then there was a chaotic fight in the air that shook the heavens and the earth. Separated Kiem Tam had to stagger to support his body. What kind of strange power is this? The shock made his hand numb. The girl screamed, put force into her arm, and turned the clutch continuously. Then she struck straight at Kiem Tam. The strike was very long. Each part was a strong vibration. But Kiem Tam still smoothly avoided and flew higher. Kiem Tam looked down, curled his lips, raised her sword, and prepared to strike a probing blow. Hoathan Van's side was still leisurely lying down watching the match. As expected of a top disciple, after a short period of interaction, she was able to guess how deep her opponent was. Than Van opened one eye slightly to observe. Although the two of them were also at the Tupu Tu in realm, the Tulin sect disciple, whose consciousness was sealed and could only rely on her fighting instinct, was at a disadvantage. Kiem Tam closed his eyes and raised her sword high, then put in bag. Then he pulled it out again. Surrounding her now was a powerful blue vortex like a storm. The girl held the stick tightly, trying to prevent her body from being sucked in. Than Van was observing with a bit of worry, but it seemed that junior sister Nak still hadn't discovered the danger. He reached out and grabbed a leaf, saying this would probably be enough. Kiem Tam is still concentrated. Than Tam's sword, decision sword technique. She waved her hand. A long sword stroke was magnified. It rushed towards the female disciple of the Tulin sect. The attack came so fast and so unexpectedly that she couldn't dodge the sword energy that rushed towards her and sent her flying. The ground cracked and the surrounding trees were also broken by the attack. All that was left behind was dust and a pile of broken objects. Looking at the female disciple trembling on the ground, Kiem Tam slowly walked forward, seemingly able to subdue them. Next, she had to think of a way to wake them up. Kiem Tam did not realize that behind her back there was a mysterious hand holding a fan using spiritual power. It released spiritual power as fast as lightning and rushed towards Kiem Tam. Oh no! By the time she realized there was danger, it was already very close. She quickly created a protective barrier, But time is too short, the fragile barrier is easily broken. As the barrier disappeared, a green beam of light flew towards it, successfully redirecting the attack, grazed the cheek and crashed into the mountain behind, creating a huge explosion. Kim Tam turned her head and looked back in panic. The one who just attacked was the remaining male disciple. He was still standing, his injured body shaking. If she had been hit by that move, she would have been seriously injured. Kim Tam quickly rushed forward with many thoughts in her mind. What is that green light? She rushed behind the male disciple. It was a leaf. She used her sword to hit him on the back of the neck, knocking him out. Who was it that saved her in the end? Returned to the room, Kim Tam brought the two unconscious disciples, blocked spiritual power, and placed them on the chair. While Kim Tam was still thinking, Hua Than Van sat up and said, "It seems you finished solving it." Kim Tam asked in confusion, "Senior brother Hoa, you were just now." Not letting her finish asking, Hua Than Van interrupted, "I've always been lying here." He looked up and smiled slightly. "What's wrong?" Seeing this, Kim Tam quickly waved her hand and shook his head. No, it's okay, I'm thinking too much. After all, Hoa brother is only a Lin Lung realm, Luke Trung. How could he have such a method? Kim Tam pointed at the two people sitting on the chair and gave an idea. "Senior brother, while the true spirits of these two people are no longer there, we must quickly bring them back to the sect and invite the elders to arrange a mind-purifying and evil-exorcising magic formation and dispel the magic spell." Kim Tam worriedly looked at Hua Than Van, who was thinking on the bed. "But like this, the people of Ma Tong will run away and cause trouble elsewhere. For the people of the world," he sighed and thought to himself. Because of the 3 days off, he activated his spiritual power and rubbed his wrist. It seemed that he could only let me take action. Kim Tam wondered and looked at Diep Pham's hand and asked his senior brother, "What are you trying to do?" Hua Than Van explained, "I want to use my divine sense to enter their sea of consciousness and pull out the blood puppet worm." Kim Tam worriedly wanted to step forward to stop him. "Senior brother, you're crazy. The Sea of Danger is where a cultivator's true spirit is stored. If you're not careful, the true spirit will be destroyed." Hua Than Van placed both hands on their heads and started doing it. "Don't worry, junior sister." Seeing this, Kim Tam became even more worried and panicked. "Wait, senior brother, are you trying to simultaneously pull out the blood seed from these two people's bodies? This is against the heavens." Hua Than Van turned around with confident eyes and said, "Saving people is like putting out a fire. Working at the same time is faster." Hearing that, Kim Tam became more worried and anxious. The key point was not whether it was fast or not, but whether it was safe or not. The female disciple just woke up. She saw her younger brother standing happily in front of her. "Tu Van, you're awake." Then she rubbed her eyes to regain consciousness. "Fong Ni." She noticed someone and glanced over cautiously. "You are disciples of Than Van Kim Tong." Kim Tam stood to the side, happily introducing, "Hello, Miss Tu Van. I am Nak Kim Tam. This is my senior brother, Hoa Than Van." Fong Ni smiled and explained, "Sister Van, this is the top disciple of Than Van Kim Tong's, Nak Kim Tam. They saved us." At this moment, Tu Van held his aching head and said, "I remember now." She remembered the image before losing consciousness. "We were captured by the demon sect elders." Hua Than Van wanted to understand the situation better and asked, "Can you tell me how you were captured?" Tu Van frowned and slowly recalled. "A week ago, Fong Ni and I were ordered by the sect to investigate the disappearance of the villagers. Then we investigated and found out a Ma Tong elder, but still conduct sacrifices with the blood of villagers. But we fell into the trap that the opponent has set in advance, finally suppressed." The more she thought back, the more she couldn't believe what had happened. She couldn't believe that I had been turned into a blood demon by evil magic. Having said this, Tu Van knelt down, clasped her hands together, and thanked the two for saving his life. Kim Tam quickly refused. "No need for thanks." She said, then extended his hand towards Hua Than Van, who was leisurely drinking tea. "The person who saved you is my senior brother." Tu Van quickly corrected himself, thanking Mr. Hoa for his help. "The life-saving grace will be repaid. No need for formalities." Kim Tam stood aside, lost in her thoughts just now. She remembered the image of the black gas flying out from Fong Ni and Tu Van's mouths. All were collected by Than Van's senior brother, who had pulled out the blood from these two people. Everything happened so fast and dangerously that her eyes broadened in shock, astonishment, and panic. Hua Than Van gently resolved everything. He withdrew his hand, breathed lightly, and said, "Done." Their minds were filled with unexplained questions. The blood puppet insect was buried deep within their sea of consciousness, under circumstances that would not endanger their lives. But pulling it out would be like looking for a needle in a haystack. Even the sect elders were not sure of this operation. Kim Tam turned around and asked with admiration, "Than Van's senior brother, when did you master this technique?" Hua Than Van's casual words made Kim Tam quite frightened. Previously, while killing time at the Tang Kin Kak, he accidentally read a book on manipulating the spirit's incomplete technique. He found the content very interesting, so he read the incomplete version, so it was still not the complete technique. "Brother, you are playing with fire." Hua Than Van casually said that it made Kim Tam quite scared. Previously, while killing time at Tang Kin Kak, he accidentally read a book of incomplete divine mind manipulation techniques. He felt that the content was very interesting, so he read the incomplete version, so it was still not the complete technique. Back to the present, Hua Than Van's appearance was difficult to describe. Just to save them, I had already spent quite a few of my heavenly talent and earthly treasures, which were approximately 30,000 top-grade spirit stones. Kim Tam stood to the side, puffing her cheeks and snorting slightly. It was obvious that you did it casually. Why did you need to use any natural treasure? They are not stupid enough to agree. But there was indeed a fool who clasped his hands in gratitude and agreed. Brother, rest assured, after we return to the sect, we will definitely offer spirit stones of corresponding value. Hearing that Kim Tam was confused and only Hua Than Van smiled smugly, but he actually agreed. Hua Than Van curled his lips and thought to himself, before everyone had admitted, that the mind-clearing formation that could dispel the blood puppet technique would require at least more than 50,000 top-grade spirit stones. Setting up the formation 30,000 was already a friendly price. It couldn't be done for free. Kim Tam stood to one side, her face full of anger, glaring at Than Van, who was happily not in a hurry. Than Van Kim Tong and Tu Lin Tong are now in a relationship. Helping you is our duty. Hua Than Van suddenly asked, "Right, can you two fellow Taoists remember the specific situation when the demon sect elder captured you?" Tu Van recalled saying, "His name is Mak Hien. His frontal fighting ability is nothing I alone can catch him. But he is good at using magic and poison. We were poisoned by him and passed out." Hua Than Van knocked on the table and gave her own idea, so that's it. Then it's simple. I have a pill that can make you immune to poison for 3 hours. Do you three have the confidence to subdue the elders of the Ma Van sector? Tu Van heard that and immediately said excitedly, "If I can be immune to the poisonous scent, then I can kill him in the blink of an eye." She suddenly stopped thinking that was wrong. Tu Van asked curiously, causing Hua Than Van to stiffen and sweat profusely. "Why are there 3 of us, fellow Taoist Hoa? Aren't you coming with us?" Hua Than Van coughed and said, "Actually, just now dispelling the Koi Trung theory for you all has cost me quite a bit of spiritual power." Looking at senior brother Kim Tam's pretend to be weak to avoid work, she wanted to say, "I'm afraid he needs to sleep to recover." The other 2 people heard that and immediately felt guilty that we were so clumsy and didn't see how hard fellow Taoist Hua worked. Fellow Taoist Hua can rest assured and leave the rest to us. I'll have to trouble you 3. Hearing the conversation between the 3 of them, Kim Tam understood clearly but was helpless. A moment later, the 3 of them set off. Holding the pill in her hand, Tu Van was a bit suspicious. Is this pill really as miraculous as Taoist Hua said? Kim Tam held the pill in her hand and firmly said, "I believe in Brother Hoa." Then they all put the pill in their mouths and swallowed it. The medicine was put into the mouths of 2 disciples of the Tu Lin sect, and they commented, it dissolves in the mouth. It seems to be no different from normal pills. Taoist Hoa's cultivation isn't high, but it's not that I don't believe him." Dark clouds gradually appeared in the sky, eclipsed the moon. Kim Tam discovered something and spoke up. "Wait, that's not quite right." Fong Ni turned back and said that it seemed that since half a stick of incense ago, there had been no more breath of living beings. Tu Van held the weapon in his hand, defensively alert. Could it be? All around them were red eyes lurking. A voice rang out, "It seems you have entered my formation." Kim Tam turned around. "Swing out many sword strokes. Slash those red eyes." Those eyes turned into red liquid and fell into the mud. Kim Tam opened her eyes and looked back. Only saw demonic energy flying out and mud. Where did this swamp come from? The land turned into a swamp. The surrounding trees were also corroded. This black mud seemed to be the corpses of dead creatures that had turned into corpses, bound by the formation. The resentment here was too thick. Kim Tam stepped forward and asked, "Did you see the person who just spoke?" Behind Kim Tam, a mysterious person wearing a black cloak appeared. "Looking for me." The person who appeared was Mak Hien. He smiled evilly and walked over. Hearing a voice behind them, the 3 of them turned back at the same time. Old thief Mak Hien. Mak Hien looked at the 2 disciples of Tu Lin sect and frowned, saying, "How can you spit out my blood seed so quickly?" Then glanced at Kim Tam, who was in an attack stance. It seems that this Than Van Kiem Tong's eldest disciple has a secret treasure on her. Seeing that there were only 3 people, he immediately mocked, "Why is one person missing? Or is it because he heard my great name that he got scared?" Tu Van gritted her teeth and used all his anger to charge forward. "I'm enough to deal with a piece of trash like you." The stick just hit down. The surrounding rocks were broken. Tu Van was surprised but did not hit anyone. But there is a strange black air coming. Mak Hien avoided laughing, haha, already suffered a loss once and still fell into the trap. Fong Ni rushed from behind, "Shut up, you're about to die." He used his spiritual power to attack, but Mak Hien just smiled lightly. He used poison gas to lightly block the attack. "You righteous disciples are all idiots." He behind the poisonous gas smiled evilly. Does my real bone fragrance smell good? Ha ha ha. Fong Ni and Tuvan inhaled the poisonous gas and were panic-stricken. A beam of green light was slashing down from above. Mac still disregarded using poison gas to block the hit, but then he suddenly changed his feelings. That sword easily dispels poisonous gas, then create an explosion, smoke and dust everywhere. Kim Tam and the other two looked down, but except for a hole there was not a soul. Kim Tam frowned and gritted his teeth. I haven't hit the target yet. Suddenly there was a black aura surrounding her. His toxic gas. Mac body gradually gathered. Nah, Kim Tam really has some skills. He emitted poisonous gas from above in all directions. He looked down at the ground, meaning it was useless. You guys have been hit by my real bone incense. He pointed down. It was now past 10 breaths. Fall down for me. The smoke gradually cleared. He looked again closely. Not right. Below there were only two people, Kim Tam and Fong Ni, who raised their lips and looked up. Tuvan was now behind him, swinging his stick and advancing. Why was one person missing? The stick suddenly hit him in the back, causing him to vomit blood. His eyes seemed to pop out and filled with tears. He was hit from above and crashed to the ground. Then Fong Ni also rushed to attack. He released many purple rays of light, hit towards the motionless Mac Hien got up. He kept coughing up blood. Cough, cough, cough. Bloodshot eyes looked up at the sky. Why aren't you poisoned? Tuvan pulled his eyes and stuck out his tongue at him. Impossible. Tuvan happily thought to herself, fellow Taoist Hoa medicine is too formidable. If don't fear those tricks, dealing with the people of the demon sect is as easy as turning your hand. Mac Hien knelt on the ground, bowing his head in unwillingness. My real bone incense is more toxic than Duanling Xiang. Even if you block its breath, it will still be absorbed through the skin. Except for my unique antidote, there is no other pill that can cure the poison. Mac Hien still did not understand. He frowned and thought, could it be that they had other secret treasures on them? Kim Tam coldly looked down from above, preparing to strike. This was the end. Thun Van sword art. Mac Hien wiped the blood from his mouth. Support your body to stand up. Haha, that's the end. He flew higher. That's right, the game ends here. He created a red array from above. Surrounding the three people, their sword hearts condensed into a heavenly blood, refining great formation. All three of them fell into a state of panic. What happened? Kim Tam bit his lip and tried to endure. Mac Hien is proud outside the formation. I told you a long time ago, you have already entered my formation. A mass of mud is rising on command. Number 1 deals with it. Fong Ni broke out in a cold sweat and slowly turned around. A monster is crawling. It stood up. Its feet were also covered with mud. The body had taken shape, and it bared its sharp teeth and roared. Fong Ni and Tuvan felt its strength and feared the Blood Kui Tu Palace's 6 insects. The bloodthirsty guy smiled sinisterly. Kim Tam glared warily. Mac Hien outside folded his arms and smiled. Today you guys can't even think about leaving. He held up a small flame and said, I have already sent the number 2 of the 5th level Purple Palace Realm's Death Palace over there, including that daring guy hiding in the Cloud Village. Kim Tam widened his eyes in panic. Oh no, brother Hoa is in danger. Hua Thun Van is still sleeping now. A 6-eyed monster burst through his window, but the surprise was that there was no one on the bed. Hua Thun Van quickly went to sleep in the next room. Humph, wanting me to work overtime is still too young. Thinking he could sleep peacefully, the door to the room exploded. The second monster entered the room. Hua Thun Van opened her eyes wide and was speechless. Monster number 2 is roaring its might, but was stopped by Thun Van's laughter. Ha ha ha. Hua Thun Van got up from bed and said, if you can't find the person, can't you go back? He lifted his hair with his hand and frowned angrily at number 2, still wanting to drag other people into it. Inside the formation, there was a fierce battle. Kim Tam continuously swung his sword to attack. Beat the number 1 blood. Number 1 stands there, gently conjures a mud shield that blocks all attacks. Tuvan from behind holding a sharp stick and advancing. She rushed up and hit him in the back, but it was easily caught by one hand. Then he swung his arm and threw her away. Fong Ni stood behind, holding a fan and releasing purple fire name Tuvan Fire. The flames turned into many chains and flew away. Go to number 1 and tighten it. His face was covered with blood. The whole person strained to break the chain. The chain just broke, and a sword also slashed past. Cut him in half. Kim Tam holds the sword tightly in her hand. Biting her lip, she stared at it, hoping that the sword strike just now could kill it. Blood number 1 body was cut in half, but it was not afraid. It used its hands to grab its lower body. Reconnecting the 2 severed body parts like this restores the original state. Seeing this scene, Kim Tam became more and more confused. What? The blood puppet jumped up. Throw a punch. That fist hit Fong Ni, causing him to cough up blood and fly far away. Be careful. Tuvan saw the person fall down and worriedly shouted, Fong Ni. Notice the bloodstains next to Fong Ni. Tuvan's eyes gradually lost calm. You dare to hit Fong Ni. She jumped up from the ground with such force that the surrounding rocks flew away. Her angry eyes, filled with murderous intent, struck the back of the number 1 blood puppet. The blood puppet was beaten in the air and fell to the ground. Kim Tam went to Tu Van's side and said, "This guy has endless power, and his abilities are so strong that sooner or later we will be worn down to death." Tu Van turned around and gave a countermeasure. "I have a move that can directly turn him into dust." Kim Tam is happy really, but it takes time to gain momentum. Please help me prolong that time. Taoist Kiem Tam stood in front of the blood monk. Her face was covered in sweat, but she still insisted on giving it to me. Mak Hien stood outside, laughing loudly and confidently. "Ha ha! If you have any tricks, just use them. Number 1 is my most successful blood koi work. You are about to become my sacrifice. Feel something." He grinned slightly. Part 2 ended so quickly. It seems that the true disciple is very chicken. On Thun Van's side, the second blood puppet was being tightly blocked by his spiritual power. "Phew, this is dangerous. I almost killed him." Hua Thun Van said with an expressionless face, "I cannot let the Martong elders feel it. I just want to sleep peacefully, but you keep waking me up." Thun Van reached out to number 2. "If that's the case, I'll give you a gift in return," he said. Then he grabbed the number 2 hair. "Pull it up on the ground." Hua Thun Van observed the magic formation in the distance and estimated the distance. Locating, he raised the trembling number 2 up high over there. Number 2, pale and scared, living with no regrets. Right on target. He threw it away without mercy. Go. Number 2, the person who was blinded and thrown away at high speed, cried silently. Flying at such a fast speed, number 2 was scared to death and foamed at the mouth. Hua Thun Van looked at the mess in the room and thought it was still a while before the hour of the snake. Let's see if there are any good rooms left, so can sleep a little longer. Number 1 continuously threw many punches at Kim Tam. Kim Tam used his sword to block the attack. But it's impossible. She was knocked away. She put her hands on her body to support herself. Wiping blood from her mouth, she breathed heavily. Look at the blood puppet smiling smugly over there. She thought that this blood puppet was getting stronger and stronger under the reinforcement of the magic formation. Mak Hien looked at Kim Tam fighting below as expected of the Than Van Kim Tong's eldest disciple to be able to hold on until now, but it's almost over. Number 1 strikes. Number 1 listened to the command and jump up. Throw a punch forward, Kim Tam. Seeing that it was inevitable to have sword thoughts in my heart, Taoist Zi Yun apologized. "I'm afraid I..." Suddenly, a beam of light flew from the sky. Mak Hien turned back and looked wonderingly. "What is that?" "An unknown object is rushing towards me at high speed." Then it flew through and broke the formation. It crashed into first gear, created a huge vibration, thick smoke and dust. Until the smoke clears, Kiem Tam was shocked and Mak Hien was frozen in place, sweating profusely. Under the mud is the second blood puppet stuck in the ground. The first blood puppet is broken and cannot be restored. Mak Hien hugged his head and screamed in pain. Number 2, how could that be? Kim Tam looked at the crack in the magic circle and was happy. Great, senior brother is fine. Is this an elder coming? Mak Hien heard that and was scared. The elder of Than Van Kim Tong has come. This is going to be troublesome. He reached out to control something, had to run away quickly. A blood puppet rose from the mud. Again blood puppet, strengthening magic. The blood demon jumped up and attacked Kiem Tam. Kiem Tam wanted to avoid, but was trapped by mud and couldn't move. Damn, what is this? At this moment, Tu Van rushed over with an iron rod. Fellow Taoist has been waiting for a long time. Fellow Taoist Tu Van. Tu Van's whole body emitted purple lightning, filled with aura as he rushed over. Mak Hien saw Tu Van knew and was terrified. How could something as simple as a 4th level of the Purple Palace realm accumulate the spiritual power of an 8th level? Tu Van holds a stick to resist the blood puppet's attack. Death image is terrifying. From there came a great shock. A purple spiritual explosion. The light spread to where Hua Thun Van was sleeping, but he was wearing a blindfold and sleeping soundly. The next morning, Hua Thun Van woke up. After a stormy night, the first thing he did was go open the window to welcome the sunshine and breathe in the fresh air, but just happily opened his eyes. The first sighting was a thunderous explosion that was truly a peaceful, nuclear-level day. Seeing this scene, Hua Thun Van sighed. Junior sister Nach and the others were able to fight this Martong elder all night long. It was truly not simple. Feeling finished, he rummaged through his pockets. He took out a watch to check the time. On the side of Nahak Kim Tam, the cracked formation gradually disappeared. Blood Puppet was critically attacked by Tu Van. Beat him into a puddle of mud. Suddenly, Tu Van sat down weakly, breathing heavily. Kiem Tam looked at the power that Tu Van emitted and exclaimed, "It's truly an astonishing storm of power." Fong Ni explained from behind. "This is the exclusive cultivation method of the Tulin sect. We can accumulate spiritual power and then explode it all in one breath." Fong Ni stepped forward to support Tu Van to continue speaking, but the disadvantage was also very obvious that the word accumulation time was too long. Tu Van was gratefully helped to advance this time. Luckily, Taoist Nak helped to block it. Kim Tam shyly waved his hand. No, I'm just doing my duty." On top of the formation, Mak Hien angrily spoke the 3 beasts. Tu Van gritted his teeth and looked up. There was still one more spirit that needed to be dealt with. Mac Hyan radiated a fiery red spiritual power filled with murderous intent. You guys actually destroyed the number one that I spent decades cultivating. Tu Van picked up the stick and wanted to continue fighting, but was advised by Fong Ni, beside her sister, Van, don't rely on your strength anymore. That move just now is about to drain your spiritual power. Kim Tam said, leave this place to me. She used her spiritual power to fly into the air. Mac Hyan angrily released his spiritual power in the shape of a hand and rushed up. They flew to Kim Tam wanting to grab her. The sword heart raised the sword and slashed at them. Thun, Van sword, Dharma. The sword slashes out and flies wherever it goes. It flew up near the top of the formation and exploded. When the claws were about to touch Kim Tam's body, she just calmly closed her eyes and waited. Many slashes appeared on that hand and then disappeared. Kim Tam glanced up with angry eyes. Mac Hyan was sweating and gritted his teeth, hissing that girl was so strong. Mac Hyan raised his hand and continued to strike. I want to see how many swords you can slash with. Kim Tam only opened his mouth and said one word, open. The magic formation under his feet cracked into many pieces. Then the crack grew larger and spread rapidly. Mac Hyan opened her mouth in shock. She looked at the wound that had been torn before. Mac Hyan bit his lips and used his spiritual power to say, I didn't expect it. You can force me to this extent. Spiritual power from his hand. The blood went straight to his head and he vomited blood in pain, so what? His face gradually appeared wrinkles, which was a sign of aging. Kim Tam looked at that neither human nor ghost appearance in surprise. He used his own blood to drip into a red ball with strange patterns inside. Kim Tam wanted to step forward to stop him, but that was not good. He wanted to use a secret technique and had to pay a heavy price. But before she could do anything, she was ambushed from behind. Oh no, the 8 acupoints that release spiritual power are sealed. Kim Tam worriedly turned back to ask how you guys were doing, but Fong Ni and Tu Van were once again controlled. Their eyes became lifeless. Haha, my blood magic can't easily dispel them so cleanly. Mac Hyan smiled wickedly and ordered number 3 and number 4 to bring her here. Swordheart was held back and brought near Mac Hyan. Even though your talent is outstanding in front of me, you are just a little devil with a dirty nose. Kiem Tam Nan gritted his teeth in anger, her eyes showing the will to rebel and kill him using you as the first sacrifice. Mac Hyan raised his hand, emitting red spiritual power and sharp iron claws, and said, sacrifice it to my Thien Huyet Luyen formation. Unable to resist, Kiem Tam closed her eyes and waited for death. I apologize to the sect master and the venerable master. As the eldest disciple of the sect, I was defeated by the demon sect. Thinking back to the moment, she burst into tears, and there was also Brother Hua. I was too careless. When the claws were about to touch the swordsman's heart, a voice rang out to stop him. Hua Thun Van stood majestically on high, said, let my junior go. Kiem Tam and Mac Hyan looked over in surprise. Hoa senior brother. Seeing the person coming was Hua Thun Van Mac Hyan. He was wondering where this monk from in the palace came from. Where was the elder of Thun Van Kiem Tong, who killed Huyet Koi, number 2? Hua Thun Van sighed. Don't look anymore, this place is only me. Kiem Tam was impatient and worried. She spoke up. Brother Hoa, run away quickly. You are not his match. Mac Thien smiled evilly. Ha, you really want to show off, said, and then released spiritual power to attack Hoa Thun Van. Then, let's start with you first. Thun Van calmly snapped his fingers. Suddenly, a purple spiritual power came from nowhere and destroyed his sharp iron claws. He was confused. Why, huh? The injured hand was covered in blood. The person who just attacked Mac Hyan was Tu Van. You are number 3. How is that possible? He narrowed his eyes, his hands trembling in disbelief. This was a blood puppet that he had used his own blood essence to reactivate. Its power was several times stronger than normal, and even with a powerful magical treasure, it would be impossible to neutralize it in an instant. Fong Ni waved her hand and threw the chain at Mac Hyan. Stop being lazy and watch the trick. Number 4, you are already like this. Tu Van jumped behind him and spun the stick. Use the remaining strength to strike down with a punch that creates a violent earthquake. You go down. In the end, all that remained was a smoking crater. Kiem Tam worriedly walked closer to Hoa Thun Van. She looked up and asked Brother Hoa what was going on, but the response she got was Hoa Thun Van's indifferent eyes. Tu Van stepped forward and asked Taoist Hua, what are you doing? Hoa Thun Van smiled lightly and replied that it was just a little trick. Time goes back to last night when entering the Sea of Consciousness to remove the blood puppet worm. Hua Thun Van saw the root worms growing on their left chests. I discovered that the roots of the worm are closely tied to your true spirit. I'm afraid of harming the spirits, so I only remove the parasite from the outside. Hua Thun Van waved his hand and used his spiritual power to remove the surrounding roots for them. But it also means that you can always be manipulated again. So Hua Thun Van raised his hand to create many sword energies. I left a few sword energies in your Sea of Consciousness. When a demon sect elder activates the blood puppet, the sword energy can cut it. Tuvan and Fong Ni were both surprised, unable to believe that the crucial moment could turn the situation around. Tuvan heard and immediately clasped his hands and bowed his head in gratitude. It turns out that Hoa Taoist's thoughts are truly exquisite. I truly admire you. Kim Tam said with a sad face, Brother Hoa, why didn't you tell me what if the plan failed? Seeing his junior sister's dissatisfied expression, Hoa Than Van was confused and didn't know what to say. It's already a success. What are you still hesitating for? Hoa Than Van sighed, junior sister, don't feel like you don't exist if you can't catch him. Hoa Than Van started to flatter that this time he could defeat the demon sect elder. You are the key figure. Kim Tam was surprised and confused, really. Hoa Than Van recalled the time when Kiem Tam was captured and said helplessly, if the junior sister was not trapped in the dark, how could she have used realistic acting techniques to deceive the cunning elder of the demon sect? Tuvan also nodded in agreement. That's right. How can we easily get close to that old thief? Kiem Tam was led to believe it in a daze. Then she turned to look at Hoa Than Van with eyes of admiration. Although senior brother Hoa has a low cultivation base, he did not expect that he is a person who is good at using tricks and has the wisdom to understand everything. But she didn't see Hoa Than Van. He was secretly smiling a triumphant smile because the plan had succeeded. I finished everything before going to work. It's all over, so I can probably take a leave of absence first, right? Suddenly a loud bang startled him. The Great Formation began to light up and rotate. What the hell is this blood-condensing Great Formation that was activated again? Hoa Than Van's group looked down in surprise. Could it be that the guy wasn't dead yet? Hoa Than Van painfully held the watch in her hand. Damn it, I already know how a good thing like taking an early leave can come to me. Mak Hyen's body was covered in wounds. He knelt on the ground and absorbed something. The two blood demons also gradually melted and flew in one direction. It is the blood of the first and second blood priests. The accumulated blood was gradually absorbed by Mak Hyen. Hoa Than Van observed Mak Hyen carefully and spoke. What was he refining? In front of his belly formed the tip of a spear, with two sickles on either side. Swordheart hurriedly moved forward to attack. There was no hope of achieving it. Than Van sword art. Mak Hyen laughed crazily, holding the spear that was about to be refined, and swung it up. Kiem Tam used her remaining strength to attack and block Mak Hyen from breaking the sword technique. Mak Hyen's face was covered in sweat. He was tired and breathed heavily, smiling, and said, "It's late." He raised his spear high and gently blocked Kiem Tam's attack. He smiled with satisfaction and glanced up. The silver sky blood formation was finally finished. The last blow made Kiem Tam's sword hand tremble unsteadily. That was my last strike. She turned back and said loudly, "Our spiritual power is exhausted, retreat first." While everyone was rushing away, Hoa Than Van was still standing there. He calmly opened his mouth and said, "You guys go ahead, it's almost time." This word made everyone surprised and confused, turning back. "Senior brother Hoa, what are you waiting for? Hurry up!" But because he stopped, he couldn't escape in time. Mak Hyen released the blood puppet's hands. "Want to run?" A giant blood puppet with 4 arms grabbed each of them. Mak Hyen stood in the middle, controlling the blood puppet, and mockingly said, "You worm next is real hell." Tuvan and Fong Ni were both exhausted and had no strength to fight back. Damn, they had no spiritual power. Otherwise, how could they have been captured? This guy can't be beaten to death. Kiem Tam was caught, his eyes wide open, looking at Mak Hyen in fear. It was clear that just now it was only the 5th level of the Purple Palace. Now it's actually the 8th level. Was captured, but in their hearts, they were still very confused. Damn it, the 4 sacrifices are still here. How could he complete the condensing heaven, blood-refining great array? Could it be that he only absorbed 2 bloods? Mak Hyen smiled and admitted, "Yes, number 1 and number 2 are my collectibles, but I didn't expect to be defeated by you guys." Tuvan spoke again. That was not right. Even if the strength of the number 1 Superman could take on 2, with 1, the strength of the number 2 was still far inferior to us. At most, it was like 3 people. Suddenly she stopped as if thinking of something maybe. He said he raised his spear high and laughed. "Ha ha, that's right, I can also be a product." In the middle of the spear, a beam of red light gathered. This was the first step of the Demon Lord descending upon the world. Tai Ma Shich Luyan Ma Bin. Hearing this name, everyone is afraid of the Shich Luyan Ma Bin. Kiem Tam anxiously looked over and saw Hoa Than Van still holding the countdown timer. "I finished 5, 4. What are you looking at, senior brother?" Fong Ni was scared and sweated profusely. The book recorded that the demon soldiers first appeared 10,000 years ago. Countless righteous people were killed, and the territory fell into the hands of the demon sect. Only after the powerhouses of the 5 regions of the Tung continent joined forces could they break the chain of the demon soldiers. The end of that great tribulation, the countdown rang out again 3. Mo Xian didn't care. and continued to laugh loudly. Ha ha ha, little boy, you're quite knowledgeable. This soul-refining demon fetus can become a complete red-refining demon soldier. Teku Makhayan raised his spear high and prepared to attack. Today the four of you will have the honor of becoming the enlightenment offerings of the fetus demon. Suddenly blood splattered from the pain. A strange sound, a strange noise. What was that sound? Huathan Van escaped from the control and looked at the clock that was ringing. It was already Thai hour, so get to work. Makhayan frowned, confused. What was he doing? A blue light suddenly appeared. It injured Makhayan and then cut the blood monster behind him in half. Huathan Van frowned and explained to him, that means your time to die has come. Kim Tam escaped and asked, Brother Hoa, did you just hit me with the sword energy? You guys quickly go and leave this to me. But senior brother, Huathan Van gently reassured junior sister, you guys should quickly go set up the spirit binding formation to protect the village. Kim Tam's face was worried, and he urgently asked Hoa brother which elder killed Huyet Thoi, so quickly call him over here. We can't deal with him with just a few people. Tuvan also worriedly tried to stop him. Now that he was about to sacrifice himself, his strength was at least at the 8th level of the Purple Mansion realm. Even if we joined forces, Feng would still continue to advise him. That's right, fellow Taoist Hua. Don't think about it anymore. Huathan Van gently comforted Kiem Tam mood. Don't worry, we'll be over soon. Makhayan was injured and kneeling on one knee, trying to breathe in the sword energy just now. What was that? It was clear that he was only at the Lin Lung realm. Makhayan trembled and stood up. You stinky brat, what secret treasure did you use just now? Huathan Van, if you laugh at me, do I still need to use secret treasures to deal with you? On the side of the Kiem Tam group, they left. But he still couldn't stop worrying. Fellow Taoist Nak, are we going to leave him like this? Does your senior brother Hoa really have a way to deal with Makhayan? Makhayan launched an attack and quickly rushed towards Huathan Van, but he didn't bother to dodge, just let it hit him, creating a small explosion. Based on his strength at the 6th level of the Lin Lung realm, he was afraid that he would be killed with just one palm strike. Nha Kiem Tam recalls the actions and previous decisions of Huathan Van and chooses to trust. I don't know, but I believe in Brother Hoa. Since coming down the mountain, every decision of Brother Hoa has been correct. Huathan Van sighed. At this moment, after his attack was still standing still, without moving an inch, he curled his lips and smiled contemptuously. Ha! He took out a sword with red eyes looking down. There was no way he could hurt this person. He frowned and began to feel scared. Kim Tam on this side also flew to the village. She just landed on the ground, activated the spiritual power to take out the magic treasure from the spirit-locking, spirit-binding formation, then throw it into the sky. Standing in the middle of the village, it creates a barrier like a net that surrounds the entire village. Huathan Van felt that there was a protective formation in the village. He is relieved. Next you can hit comfortably. Makhayan clenched the sword and laughed to cover up the fear in his heart. Haha. He pointed his spear at Huathan Van. Don't you think that just now was my full strength? Huathan Van calmly spoke up. Didn't I say, if you have any tricks, then use them quickly, or else you won't have another chance soon. Makhayan gritted his teeth in anger, feeling humiliated. He screamed and poured his spiritual power into the spear tip. He created a large red ball blood spear slash. The power it emitted blew everything away. Even the mountain was cracked and blown away. Makhayan smiled smugly because of his recent powerful attack. But in his eyes, the image of Huathan Van was still standing firm. Thou. Huathan Van stood there calmly looking at Makhayan like a joke. Than Van once again looked down with contempt. Isn't that just that? Makhayan angrily swung his spear and slashed, but Than Van easily dodged it. Die. His face was full of blood vessels. Blood-red eyes went crazy holding the spear in his hand, concentrating all his strength to absorb the surrounding blood corpses. He created a vortex of blood. He used 100% of his power to create this attack. Many powerful vortex pillars appeared one after another. He laughed like crazy. From the place of Van Can village, one can see a pitch-black sky, surrounded by many pillars of blood and corpses. Tu Van and everyone looked over and couldn't help but worry. Oh my god, is this the power of the demon soldiers? Kim Tam clasped her trembling hands, and his eyes filled with tears as she silently prayed Brother Hoa. Makhayan was tired of creating the ghost soldier and had not yet had time to breathe when he heard Huathan Van's voice. I tell you, cultivating skills cannot be just about feeling beautiful. Only hearing but not seeing people makes him panic and look around. What is the use of skills that are more harmonious and do not hit people? After saying that, many green lights quickly flew over. They slashed at those blood pillars. I don't know how the pillars that were cut gradually disappeared. Makhayan was scared. He hypnotized himself. Haha, I must be dreaming. He broke out in a cold sweat, unable to believe his eyes. How could this be an illusion? At this time, Huathan Van also appeared from the smoke. Are you thinking about why a small Lin Lang monk can easily play with his elders like that? Very simple, it's because Hua Than Van coldly looked down as if looking at a fool. I have sealed my own realm. Mac Hyen's cross demon slash attacked, but Than Van Chi used one hand to block it. Up until now, I have never dared to cultivate in front of others, afraid that if I accidentally awaken, it will lead to heavenly tribulation. Multi-layered friction magic blade continued to attack, but was still lightly countered. One hand of the flower Than Van fought, the other hand clenched tightly, sighed and told of his long-standing suffering. Moreover, as a sect disciple, performing too well is not a good thing. Speaking of this, Hua Than Van's sharp eyes looked over the so-called the greater the ability, the more trouble there is. Hua Than Van started to get serious. To be able to live a peaceful life, I have to wash clothes. I see that my strength is no match. Mac Hyen turned around and ran away, damn it. Run and attack at the same time, hoping to prolong the escape time. This crazy guy. But the person had appeared behind him since when? Stop, have I let you go yet? Mac Hyen was extremely scared. Hua Than Van clenched his sword and raised it 5 or 7 times, affecting my rest time. Hurting my teammates forced me to leave first. Mac Hyen was scared and couldn't fight back, so he ran away from you. Don't come here. Hua Than V. Van frowned and looked ahead. The crime was unforgivable. Than Van's sword art. A single strike rushed towards Mac Hyen in the distance. He screamed in fear, no, but it still rushed to beat him up, sending dust flying. The dark clouds are gradually disappearing, and the first warm rays of sunlight are shining down. Give back the blue sky. Hua Than Van stood on high, watching the flowing water fall into deep thought. Than Thuong Mac Hyen left a picture, not knowing what to do. Inside the crowd, Kiem Tam was surprised to see this scene. Nak, fellow Taoist, is this Hoa, senior brother of yours? Really only at the Lin Lung realm. The power of this sword can be compared to a cultivator of the immortal realm. He really is not an elder of the Than Van sword sect. How can you not be confident? Kiem Tam was also surprised. It turned out that Hoa Su Huin's realm had long surpassed all the disciples of Than Van Kiem Tong. The more she thought about it, the more ashamed she felt. Compared to his eldest disciple, what am I? Suddenly there was a cracking sound. The village protection formation is cracking, violently unstable. The spiritual power shockwave is too intense. The spirit formation is about to be broken. Kiem Tam, go ahead. Taoist Van Taoist Fong. Quickly go evacuate the villagers. We will hold out here. Having said that, the sword heart used the remaining spiritual power to maintain the formation from breaking. At least it could protect the lives of the ordinary people in the village. Suddenly, a hand appeared and used spiritual power to touch the formation. Kiem Tam suddenly looked up and saw that it was Hua Than Van coming to help. The protective formation instantly restored to normal. Hua Than Van said with a smile, "Okay, take down the formation, Brother Hoa." The people in the village immediately knelt down to thank the Immortal Master. "Thank you, Immortal Master." While the villagers were thanking Kiem Tam, he turned to ask curiously, "Senior brother, you were already so strong, why didn't you tell me?" Hearing that, Hua Than Van scratched his stupid old head. "What are you talking about, sister?" He opened his mouth without blinking once and said, "It's all thanks to the sword talisman that Master gave me that I was able to destroy that sect elder." What this said made all 3 of them surprised. So the sword just now wasn't released by senior brother Hoa Than. Van painfully sighed and said, "Of course not. I'm only at the 6th level of the spirit realm. Where do I get that kind of strength?" Having said this, he immediately turned the credit to the 3 people who risked their lives to stop me, giving me time to activate the sword talisman that my master gave me. The more he spoke, the more bewildered everyone became. In addition, that Mac Hyen was beaten to the point of exhaustion by everyone, leaving him with only a little strength, so he was directly slashed by the talisman sword. It's just that I were lucky to get the advantage. Kiem Tam still had some disbelief in his thoughts, but he was able to dodge all of the attacks from the demon sect elders. Under the attentive gaze of Kiem, Tam Than Van's sweat poured down, and he didn't know what to say. He scratched his head and found an excuse to explain that this matter was indeed because my main cultivation was body technique and escape techniques, so it was easier to dodge. Moreover, junior sister also knows that my master Guwu is the #1 in the sect in terms of magic. Kiem Tam approached and asked again to find out the truth. "So what about the spirit-destroying formation just now?" Stabilizing the entire formation like that was not something that the Lin Lung realm could do. Hua Than Van groped inside her shirt. Of course she used this. He took out a jade green gem. Seeing this thing, all 3 people exclaimed in surprise. It was a treasure spirit. Treasure spirit was a type of spirit clear that could store spiritual energy and could be summoned at any time. Because the cost of production was high, it was also only for one-time use, so it was not popular.